And we are live.
Right, hello guys.
Welcome back, everyone, to a Drawing Table podcast. It's been quite a while since the last one, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Been 3 weeks now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that 3 weeks has already passed since the last chill stream, actually. But it's great to be back for sure. There we go. But yes, it is good to be back. I've actually been itching to do a podcast within these past 3 weeks.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Yes. We actually wanted to make it the 10th episode special. Since, it's already been 10 episodes as well, Ken.
well, since we
Yeah. It definitely feels like it's been quite a roller coaster ride, hasn't it been?
definitely not easy doing this podcast. And well, wait, we shouldn't talk about this. Maybe we should save that for the next one.
Yes, but for an explanation as to why we've been missing for the past 3 weeks, we just decided to take a break from the consecutive podcasts that we've been doing with Swang. And, well, with the most of us, we have some life priorities as well that we need to attend to. And
Hold on. X Trident says audio is quite
the
loud.
audio quite low.
Hello?
Ooh, now it's really loud. Well, for me at least.
Is it better now?
It's much louder.
Oh.
Yeah, it's much too loud.
Okay, let me try to fix this. Is it your microphone or my microphone?
Now your microphone is way too loud.
Okay.
I'm just going to pull my mic closer.
How about now?
It's louder still.
Still loud? Loud?
Yeah, I think this is well, I mean, this is okay for me.
Not sure, maybe it's my microphone.
It's strange.
Whatever.
But I hear nothing from Ken. So hopefully it's not too some sort of noise interference from Ken.
What about now?
It's fine for me, dude, because we're calling over Discord.
I don't want the viewers to.
Yeah, that's why.
It's okay. It's my volume. Okay.
Mm-hmm. You know what? While waiting for a response from the audience, let's just move forward so that we don't delay things for too long. But yeah, sorry about this, guys. The settings for the audio is actually exactly the same as all of the other podcasts. So I'm not sure why it's coming across as too low for some of you. So it might be an individual audio output issue on your guys' end as well. But yes, as I was saying before, one of the reasons why we've been taking a break is that, Ken has also been taking a holiday as well. You were off to Singapore. Man. Well, sort of. Half work, half holiday, I guess.
Or like a quarter holiday, 3 quarters work.
Still something, dude, and it's Singapore. Oh man, just take me back there.
Really good food.
Oh, Singapore is just like the mecca of good food. Oh,
yeah.
I miss it so much.
And you go take some.
Yeah, that would be great. But yes, so we are back today. Just to start things nice and easy, we're going to be doing a feedback session today. So we've asked some of you to submit some of your artwork before a certain deadline so that we are able to give a paint over and live feedback session on the podcast today. And we have actually gotten quite a few entries today. And
we have 5 entries.
Yes.
Thank you very much, guys, for submitting.
Yes, we really do appreciate it. And after the feedback, we will be doing an artwork of the week session just to close things off. And if we do have time, we'll open things up for a Q&A. But since we have 5 artworks, we're going to try to do each of them for around 10-15 minutes.
And you guys can help us track.
Yes.
Help us keep track of them.
Yes. So if we do go over time, please give us a nudge. And we will begin with the first artwork that we have gotten, which is from Cassle T.
You can watch it later.
Yeah.
And for this podcast, we're also gonna be trying something where both of us are gonna be back at the same time.
Yeah.
Doing the paint over at the same time.
So that'll be interesting. Either that will lead to 2 really great feedbacks that people can pick and choose from, or 2 completely conflicting feedbacks that might make the person that submitted the artwork even more confused. So hopefully that won't be the case. But we have taken a little bit of time before the podcast to also gather some reference images as well, so you don't have to see us scrolling through Google or Pinterest to gather them. So yes,
as you can see on.
I think it'll actually be good to start off what your initial thoughts are on the piece, Ken, and what led you to choose the reference images that you have. Okay. I've already have mine on PureRef, so they've been like sized for me. Let me just toss them in.
So prepared.
I know. Now we can know who the more prepared one between the 2 of us is.
Alright.
Yes, obviously.
Alright, okay. So I'll start with giving my thoughts on the piece. Thanks for submitting. Very first image, the very first that occurred to me, actually very cute. And I think you're going for an animated movie look, but one of the bigger issues for me is definitely the perspective and camera angle. So getting the focal look right. So those 3 things. Write it down. Camera. So,
and Cassle T is also in the chat. So
awesome. Hello. Good to have you here.
Yes. And feel free to just talk us through the piece as well if you have any thoughts regarding some of the feedback that we have.
Right. If you don't understand what we're saying, message, just get on it.
Yeah, even if you disagree with something, maybe with the feedback, or we're misinterpreting something, please clarify things. Yeah. Let's make this a discussion rather than a one-way lecture.
So I think from your Facebook, want the focal point to first the house, and then Avalon, Durian.
Durian, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what you got here actually quite bright in the sense that the. But
yes,
but what's missing from the dynamism and the movement Avalon. Yeah, I think that's the main one of the main issues.
I see it.
But I would fix it. Maybe not fix it. Make it better. Actually do a few sketches. Exploring different camera angles. There's different camera angles that convey the message that you convey. Because I think you want to convey the feeling of fear from the... But right now, he's so tiny and value range when you actually... It's just...
Oh, by the way, Ken, some people in the chat are saying that there's a bit of cut off from your audio.
Oh. Okay. What I was saying is that the durian guy, we're missing... Because the durian guy is so small in the picture, we're not really feeling anything here from the image. Because it looks like some kind of snow hitting this house, and we feel character.
Yeah.
Because when we turn this into a black and white image, and then you try to squint, the character is... So what I would do, change, sorry, not change, but explore some different. But that's what I'm gonna try to do now. Just do some sketches, camera angle option, and meanwhile you can try to give us some thought of what you think about the...
Yeah. A lot of my thoughts are actually quite similar. Is that at first I wasn't even sure what was going on, because I can see that there's something happening to the side of the house over here. And it almost looks like a flood due to the softness of the brushstrokes right here. And even here, I'm not sure if this is foliage or if it's a mount or if it's rocks from the mountain. So I think material definition and brushstroke edge control would be one of the things to focus on. And yeah, I think that's because of that I initially... Oh, and also because of the mood as well, the warm lighting, I did think that this would be a more inviting kind of image, and therefore the reference images that I've taken also are more like magic hour and golden hour images. However, now that I see that it is something is hitting the house, I think I would have chosen different reference images. And I think what Ken says about the camera angle is right as well. One thing that I would actually do to make the image far more dramatic is to maybe bring the camera angle down.
That's so what I'm gonna do.
I see. I guess, yeah, we have similar thoughts as well. So I would actually bring the camera angle down so that we're kind of looking up at the house, and not necessarily just for the house, but we can then bring emphasis to some of the elements behind the house as well. So we can bring attention to the grand mountains in the background as well, and also the trees. So let's just say we put in some trees here. And what we can do as well is have the figure in the foreground bearing witness to the avalanche that has befallen the house. So actually, now that I think about it, maybe we can create a sense of flow, seeing where the avalanche is coming from. So maybe it's a right to left sort of thing. So we're still keeping that original idea of the piece. And maybe with the house as well, we can create a little... the erase brush was way too large. So maybe we can create a little bit of a bend in the house and we see the impact. And since this is a more stylized piece, you have that opportunity to maybe even bend the house to show the force of the avalanche. So you can have the snow tumbling down from there, and some trees in the background still, and maybe some trees that have already fallen over because of the snow coming here. And we can see a direct contrast in a way. this part is still relatively untouched, whereas this part, it has been swept away by the snow and the avalanche. So we can, rather than having direct arrows being represented in the piece, we can do that by making the snow follow that direction, and perhaps even the mountain. I'm not sure how an avalanche looks like, so I'll just take a little bit of a creative interpretation, and then you can even draw in some of the elements as well, being destroyed and flying about too, so you have the impact visibly felt, like, and all of the wood or bricks flying around. And maybe you can even make the house look like it's sad. No. That it might seem silly, but it's actually not it's not a really bad idea, because sometimes we tend to have that we have that tendency as humans to anthropomorphize things, and if we can have this sort of pareidolia where we see faces in things that we that do not have an actual face, that could strengthen your image all the more. And then you can even have your character in the foreground looking a lot more dismayed. Maybe he's just come back from a hunt and he's just seeing his house being wrecked. So so maybe it is in the foreground here, and having a similar reaction. Or maybe he's shielding himself from the chaos and all the debris flying around by having his hand in front of him. So this is where we can bring in some more storytelling in the piece as well. So this is actually one of the main things that I would do, is just push the composition that way.
More or less the same. Have the character in the foreground showing his emotion, that he panicking, running, make sure that he looks like he's in a hurry to get into the house. But I'm not entirely sure about the why he would house buried by an avalanche.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe he thought he could. Yeah, that's the thing, I guess. Like, I guess if I was seeing an avalanche, I'm not sure if I would run towards it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But with that said, maybe it's just in the moment, you know, so you can maybe make some sort of excuse.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Character. Action.
I actually like that, the fact that you have him running towards the house and seeing more of his whole body. I think I could probably do that as well. Like, the guy doesn't have to be so close in the foreground. I actually quite like the fact that you can see the ground planes quite clearly in your piece as well. And
adding some of the area.
And maybe you can have also some of the mountain ranges show on this in the background much more too. And you
maybe
can
not
have
for this camera, kind of fish lens.
In
fish eye.
You mean for mine or in your case?
No, for mine.
I see.
Were we talking about yours?
Yes. I actually have some mountains. And, well, it's not necessarily that the mountains are high, but sometimes there's like a huge dip, you know, in the foot of the mountains. And maybe for the lighting, I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea to have a slice of light, actually, similar to your original lighting scheme, Cassle.
Do you have any suggestion on balancing stylization and the realism in one? I think it depends on the style reference.
Yeah.
I know that you're trying to go. Sorry, not I know, but I assume that you're trying to go for that anime.
You know everything, Ken. You're never wrong.
For example, it's better to be. It really depends on the style that you're. Let me try to find.
And I actually know what you mean, Cassle, just because of the fact that I tend to go for that in my pieces as well. And there's a few ways that you can go about it. And one of the things that you can do is that stylization can come from different parts of the image. So it could be from so I'll just put this down. Stylization. It could be from the shapes and silhouettes. It could be from the shape of silhouettes. But then the realism can be from the materials, for example. Or you can have more realistic proportions. So the proportions can be more realistic, for example. So you don't have anything that's overly chunky, like in this case, but your materials are a lot more simplified because I don't see too much of the wood grain and I see a bit of wear and tear. So that's really up for you to decide, and that's what gives an artist a certain unique flavor to their works. And hey Mads, welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. We're just going through some of the pieces that have been submitted, and this is Castle's piece. So yeah, maybe the lighting could also be like this, by the way. Keeping to your original reference image. So maybe the durian guy is coming back from a hunt in the morning, and it's just the break of dawn, and maybe the herd of animals that he's been hunting have decided to take revenge on him by creating an avalanche, from excessive noise. So maybe that is what is happening. And I'm gonna steal Ken's idea of having the figure much smaller rather than much bigger in the background. So maybe he's shielding himself. Man. Yeah. But this is exactly why I wouldn't want to have my house high up in the mountains. And unfortunately, it is too late, Matt, because we did have a cut-off date of yesterday, just so that we have enough time to gather reference and gather some of our thoughts. But we will be doing future feedback sessions, so just keep an eye out for it. And we'll do our best to get to your piece. But yeah, also adding more smaller trees as well in the background so we get a sense of perspective. Because if everything is the same, the image would feel quite flat. And you can have the I'm not sure how it exactly looks like to have a house hit by an avalanche, but yeah, we can do it this way. I'll just save this document just in case something crashes. But yeah, these are my thoughts actually. And I'll write down the other points as well. So definitely the big thing for me is the camera angle. Because the camera angle greatly influences how you interpret a piece. And the lower camera angle makes the magnitude of the avalanche stronger, or feels stronger at least.
Add to the character. Put a character below So in this case, I think put a character below another object frame, then that character less powerful. And also if we're looking down or if we're looking up an object or a character, then that certain object in the frame, and it also implies the relationship of the strength between those characters. In this case, the character, the avalanche here, or in relation Durian guy, we make the Durian guy smaller and lower in the frame, then that will help feel of a massiveness or helplessness in guy avalanche.
Yes. That's actually a really good point, Ken. So it's not just because of the house, but also to make the character feel smaller. And when you have your original camera angle, Cassle, it just feels like you're detached from the whole piece and the drama is completely removed.
Yeah, it looks like a an old painting looking at things from side, as if it's part of a storybook instead of being inside of the image.
Or like a medieval painting, I suppose, where it just feels like you are observing something and detached from everything.
That's what you're going for then. Not sure.
Yeah, but judging from the action going on in this piece, I think this kind of camera angle would work well.
Yeah, I gathered some style. So you're asking any suggestions on balancing stylization. Example is by Even Earl, famous Disney artist. But all of his works are super stylized, very graphic, shapes, very graphic. If you're trying to go for this kind of direction, then your piece is definitely too heavy on the deep. If you want to do something like this, then you could start by actually detail and also making everything more graphically. So for example, Avalanche, and then with the house and trees. Hello,
and Ken, quick reminder that we have passed the 15-minute mark for the feedback.
Okay,
so we should move on soon.
With this guy. Okay, so just making it very graphic and flat, or if you're going with kind of look, the perspective and everything is real, but what's stylized is actually treatment of materials, lighting, everything. And you should study that piece and think of what makes it stylized and what.
Yeah.
The last piece by Griselda. This is also very flat and stylized. Even the character Moana is very stylized. But I hope that explains a bit more realism. Stylization. So it depends on what kind of style that you're going for. Adjust it. Adjust the design of your based on that style.
Yes. And it really helps to just look at other artists and see what you like from it and know what you want to get out of it. And hey, Thea, good to have you on the stream again. And no worries.
Oh, and
we have just only gone through one piece so far and gonna move on to the next one very soon.
Last point. Sorry about that. Last point. Find some references for how an avalanche looks.
Yes.
And also the house. I was looking at Nordic houses.
Yeah.
This looked like, get some.
I do like the house design though, like just the fact that the windows are like slat windows, and you've integrated a good variety of shapes. And that's another thing as well. I do believe that when it comes to feedback, there's always positives as well. And in this case, I do like the architecture design.
I do think that the proportion can use a bit more. I mean, the design itself, idea, but with some proportion, a lot better.
But I do think that, in terms of design language itself, it looks solid. But yeah, this is my paint over for your piece, and we will be sending you the link to the PSD later on as well, so you can have a look at it at your own time. And we will move on to the next one. We've gone a little bit ahead, a little bit over time for this one, but let's continue. But yeah, hopefully that helps, Cassle.
The next one is by Florian.
So we've asked people to submit a little bit about their piece as well, and this is what it reads as well for those of you that can't see the text. Hey, I'm Florian. Here are some characters I did for my portfolio. The goal was to make some futuristic and cyberpunk stuff, focusing on design. Thank you. All right, so I can start off with this one actually, since you did for the last one. Oh, it's Darko Brushes.
Hello.
And he's in the chat.
Really good to have you here.
Yeah, and thank you so much for submitting the piece. We really do appreciate it, and we will do our best to hopefully push it in a direction that you want to. And just
a reminder, you don't specialize in characters.
yeah, I don't have as much experience when it comes to characters or mechs, but I will still do my best. And one thing that did stand out to me was the fact that you did say you wanted to focus on designs, and I will say I do like the integration of the more organic parts into the machines. It actually gives him a somewhat tortured look actually, because the way that some of the machinery is inserted into the body.
Fun fact, I was actually looking at human deformities for this piece as reference, but I thought it would be too graphic for the stream, so I decided not to.
Yeah, we'll have to put like a trigger warning.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah. So I think those are some of the plus points of the piece, and I think this one is a much more interesting design just because of the silhouettes that you have over here. He almost looks insectoid, and even with the abdomen here as well, it looks like the segments of an insect and the way that some of the parts are plating. But I will say, one thing that I think both of these are lacking in is the clarity of the purpose and function of the both of these. From the basic silhouette and some of the sharpness of the elements, I can guess that they're meant to be aggressive, and even with their pose, they're sort of leaning forward, and with the sharper claws and some of the appendages, and even the what seems like rocket boosters on the head, I'm guessing that they're meant to at the very least be speedy. But I think that we can definitely push it more towards that direction. So I'll pull together some of the reference images that I've gathered. And I'm taking cues from some of the established cues that you already have, Florian. So I've decided to look at some reference images of some insects and some things that are speedy, in this case a motorcycle, and even some designs of cables and parts that people have made as well.
Do you have a speedy burning turtle?
No, in this case it's a speedy biomechanical insect. So yes. So I I think what we can start off with is actually identifying the purpose of these designs. So let's just say that this one can be for racing. Maybe it is for racing. We live in a world where they modify some humans and augmented them with mechanical parts, and we see them racing around a circuit. And this one can be more for attack. So those are two things we can focus on. So I will actually start on the attack one, just because I think it is a little bit easier to work on. And one of the things that I think we can look at is actually a praying mantis. And in the same way, if you kind of squint your eyes, the head reminds me of the devil mantis. The head of a devil mantis right here, and the appendages on the back look like the, what do you call it, talons? What is it, Ken?
Oh, appendage.
Appendages.
The side.
Claws?
Right?
The scythe. Yeah, sure. Let's just call it the scythe of the praying mantis. So I think that rather than just having it on the back, I'm not even sure what it's supposed to do in the back. So perhaps one thing we can do is actually move some of these appendages and let me do this, and actually make them attached to his arm, something that he could directly use. So let me just move the ref board a little bit, just so it's not blocking the way. So I could move it right over here. We could still definitely still have the hands there as well. Maybe it can retract itself as well. But let's just make the purpose of it much clearer by making it much more prominent, by increasing its size. So if we look at it from a silhouette point of view from afar, it looks much more menacing. And rather than just ruining the silhouette, I do think these appendages do create an interesting silhouette, but one thing I think is that they lack a specific function.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of having them as scythes on the back, we could actually make it as wings. So we're taking cues from the devil mantis.
That's really interesting. We have the same thoughts.
I don't think it's us having the same thoughts as much as it is you copying me, Ken.
Sorry, you're cutting off.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't think it's as much of us having the same thoughts as much as it is you copying me. I think we can all admit that. The chat can be the judge of that.
I feel like I was being watched for the past few days while I was gathering references. Not sure.
Oh, it's more than just you gathering references,
Yeah.
Ken. I've seen some other things.
Yeah, my thoughts on the design also quite similar to Jourdan. I think what's kind of missing when I look at these guys is the purpose, what they're supposed to do. Yes, and they look good rendering wise, but in terms of design, it just feels like generic mishmash of monster and mech.
Yes.
So, as Jourdan said, we can push the function and silhouette to convey what they're supposed to do better. Okay. I actually would change the the pose of the guy on the right. Something more menacing.
Oh man, I was about to do that too. Like I was gonna make him a little bit more
Yeah.
hunched over, actually.
Yeah, because right now it's just standing there or flying there without any sort of purpose, what she or whatever it needs to do. It's definitely lacking. The last one is slightly better, but it's still kind of a little bit generic. Then, but the references that I gathered, one of them is concept art. Captain America, concept art of the winged falcon. I think it's a really cool design that took inspiration from real bird wings. So in this case, you can try taking inspirations from an insect wing. And as for the details, you can look at reference actual pieces of technology that exists. And then I think you can push the design a lot more by getting a reference that's not really of references that's not directly related to what you're doing. So in this case, I was looking at Art Nouveau furnitures, and because when I look at the lines on the Mac part of your design, it just reminds me of this Art Nouveau of pieces. So maybe we can take some inspirations from this integrated case. Before the forearm, it has that kind of curves, so it also gives a bit more story to how these guys are created, instead of being just like a generic bad guy, generic father.
And that's a really cool idea, Ken. I think I've definitely stuck to a little bit more of the generic kind of reference, but even insects would serve as a great
For sure
starting point, just because insects in itself do look like mechs in themselves.
You know, there's actually an insect that has a set of rotating gears.
Ooh, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, and it can jump really high.
I see. Oh, and we have Vyuki in the chat as well. So welcome, Vyukes. Glad to have you here, man. And yeah, it's a little bit of a mix-up with the date. So so we wrote it down that we're gonna do it tomorrow, but yes, it's in fact today. And Latte Milky has also said, actually, if I have to give a small thought, if it's going to be mechanical wings, I think it has to be at least a wider aerofoil type wings, like a plane. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And yeah, I do not have that reference up with me right now, but you know, we can definitely make it much bigger. And if you want to go a little bit of the maybe more almost like magical sciencey sci-fi route, maybe you can introduce some sort of color by having some sort of
and it's entertainment
entertainment design. And that's another thing I wanted to comment about, is that there is a little bit a lack of variety in materials. It just feels like there's this, you know, the material for the cables and the body, and then the glass as well. And I think, you know, we can definitely introduce something like this holographic kind of material on top of it all, just to give a pop of color as well. And maybe even for the eyes as well, or the helmet, we can take cues from the Devil Mantis, where it's not necessarily just one helmet like this. Especially if it's a lot more mechanical, you can go a lot crazier and make it look a lot less human and menacing by giving it what do you call it, eyes that look a lot less human as well. Especially when you're designing a mech, you definitely have a lot of that room to just play around with the silhouette. The proportions don't even have to be that human. And I think that's something we can play around here as well. Maybe even warp things around too. Thanks. I mean, but that's the thing. I'm only working off of what Florian has, and I think there's a lot of potential with this design. And as you can see as well with the Devil Mantis, there's lots of cool patterning as well. So maybe that's what you can add in too. So maybe having some of the blue lights as imitating some of that patterning. And as you can see, there's almost like tiger patterning, which looks aggressive in itself. And if you look at the back of a Devil Mantis, they actually have part of the wings that look like eyes to scare off even bigger predators than they are. So we can try playing around with that. So I'm just testing it out quickly, not sure if this would work, but even having like tiger stripe like patterning inside the body somehow to give it that pop of color would be really cool. But maybe blue looks too friendly, so it could be red as well, or maybe purple even. Just experimenting, but you definitely want to make sure that your design decisions match with the intent of the piece. And in this case, since it's meant to be attack and aggressive, you know, you can try and pull out all the stops in order to communicate that. And to make it faster, maybe you can even take cues from like a motorcycle as well, looking at all of these cool shapes that they have. So maybe just taking a segment, and rather than having one big chunk like that, we can try playing around by messing around with the shapes. No guarantee if this would work, but hey, we are experimenting over here. So maybe I can then change the color. Yeah, what about you, Ken? I haven't had a chance to look too much at yours actually.
Not adding, but designing the wing, taking inspiration from Art Nouveau, the Art Nouveau look. So yeah, maybe it can have a little bit more detail, the lining. Also help shape, or not shape, but make your design a little bit more unique. And changing the proportions help push the design in a direction that's a lot better. So in this case, I made the wings larger because it feels more aggressive that way.
Yeah.
Pushing the forward a bit more.
I think if I also had to give feedback on my feedback, I could have taken the time to do a sketch of things first rather than just working directly.
That's one of the things that I want to mention. I feel like you're doing all this straight to painting from maybe a thumbnail sketch or something. And I think it's always a good idea to do an art. At least, even a rough one, to at least figure out the direction that you want to take. Because for me, it's really difficult to go straight into painting.
Yes, it's definitely the case with me too, Ken.
Yeah. So you might try it,
and
see if it works for you.
Yeah. So I guess you can say, if you had to take this feedback, look at how Ken has played around with the overall silhouette. But one thing that you can also look at the design language, maybe how you can play around with it. So one thing I'm doing as well is just taking some of the parts that you have already here, Florian. Like I really like this crest kind of shape that you have over here. And I'm also looking at the Devil Mantis where it seems to almost have like triangular and intimidating shoulders. And I'm taking this crest piece that you have and just making it even larger. Not only does this make the design language more consistent, but it creates a cool shape, and you're introducing a negative shape as well to the piece, which is something that I found to be a little bit absent, since most of it in terms of the silhouette before has been positive shapes. But by having negative shapes, it just helps break it up a little bit, so it's a lot more interesting. And you can even duplicate that and put it here too, so that could create like the vertebrae of sorts maybe.
And
not merge it too much.
as for the look at real world references, these joints actually mechanical that to it. Make it more grounded. Sorry, not integrate, but make it grounded and add to the believable. I think with mechanical pieces, it looks cooler if you can see some parts that show the mechanical. Sorry, I think it's cooler if you can see the mechanical parts moving, like the joints, like that. So it's not all just one huge piece of armor, but some parts are showing through with the how it moves. So exposing
basically
it.
Don't take the MacBook approach. It might look cooler in real life, but in entertainment we want to sometimes sacrifice sensibility and functionality for the sake of, well, entertainment really. So yes, we've actually we took 20 minutes for this paint over, Ken, so we definitely should move things along.
And Smoke Keeper says, looks amazing, never thought of pulling bits and using. I think it's talking about
that
your
definitely is
talking about your paint.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great way of doing it, and I've learned this as well from one of my good friends at work, actually, Thomas. He does that quite a lot with his pieces, just grabbing bits and moving it around. So I'm trying to be a little bit more flexible on my part as well.
It also helps.
And it helps.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it helps create consistency.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna.
All right.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and we can move on to the next one. And Florian, I do think that, yes, when it comes to your rendering skills, it's solid for sure, man. And I think you just need to think of the functionality. So I'll just write it down somewhere. But that's the main thing. Focus on function as well. And also think about what kind of feelings you want to communicate with the design. Like if you do want it to be attack, try and find references that emote that as well. So maybe something that is fast and aggressive, so maybe a tiger, or maybe a motorcycle, or maybe a sports car that looks really aggressive like this. You can just take some pieces and bash it around.
And then use those as references and inspiration for the shape language of your design.
Yeah, so thank you so much for submitting it, Florian. And I'm glad to hear that it really helps. Okay, we can move on to the next piece, and we will send you the PSD as well of the piece if you would like to as well, Florian. I'll just get Quentin to pass it on to you later on. And special shout outs to him because Quentin actually helped us to find quite a few of the people that submitted their artworks today. So we might not have had as many to do a paint over of if it wasn't for him. So yeah, you can pull out the next next image, Ken, and I'll just read a few comments from the chat, just see what everybody has been saying. Latte Milky also says, Joe's paint over reminds me of Genesect from Pokemon, and I can definitely see why.
Who's Jen?
It's one of the legendary Pokemon that looks like a cyborg insect.
I don't think I've caught up to Pokemon.
Yeah, it's one of the newer generations. But it's not even that new anymore, actually. But I'm really excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to watch Detective Pikachu. Aren't you, Ken? Is anyone in the chat excited to watch Detective Pikachu? I can't be the only one, right? Oh, man. I guess you're always more of a Digimon boy.
Digimon is better than Pokemon. Anyways.
Well, that's debatable, but yes. Moving on to the next piece.
Okay.
So, Ken, if you would do the honors of reading out
Yes.
The description for the piece.
So this is a piece by Guilz. I'm not sure how to pronounce. Assume it's Guilz. Title is Ruins in the Darkness. Description: ruins of a lost castle in a place that seems cursed. Okay. Then why I gathered these references. Feel like the piece is missing that kind of secretive maybe it's everything so clear to the camera, us. So like if you see this at the back, at this part of the castle at the back, also detailed.
Yeah.
If you want an image to look scary or cursed or abandoned, I feel like you have to hide this piece. Part of the castle, parts of the falling fog. So
yeah, so it's atmosphere.
Exactly,
right?
Atmosphere. Because everything is what I would actually said. I did. It's missing the atmosphere for sure.
And just to add on as well is that I think the camera angle, the choice of camera angle isn't quite as impactful as well.
Okay.
And it just feels like we're observing from the distance and, we feel the building just looks like it's sitting there and that's it, But what if the camera angle was much lower or even much higher, actually? That could work. But since we're just going to work off of what's already there, what I've decided to do here is just enlarge the castle and give it a little bit of a 3-point perspective just to make it feel a little bit more imposing. And I've actually taken a little bit of time to brainstorm as well. What makes something feel cursed? Because that is part of the description of the image. And one thing I'm realizing is that I will just be honest with this, where I feel like the design of the piece is controlled by the usage of the photos rather than the other way around.
Sorry, but speaking of, I can see a lot of mistakes in flashing. The lighting, especially, doesn't match. Lighting between and the sky. Three of them don't at all. At the sky, I think the sun but the rubbles, like it's almost the right side, and then the castle is lit from right. So there's the three of them are disconnected. So if you want your photo bashing to be successful, the condition of the photo has to,
or you manipulate it manually, and that comes from fundamentals, something that cannot be skipped. And I'm just gonna go out on a limb here that the fact that these hasn't been addressed yet is that you are not as solid with your lighting fundamentals yet, and you're allowing the photos to dictate your decision. So yeah, I think that can definitely be a problem with a lot of people that decide to go into photo bashing before they have a solid knowledge of perspective, lighting, and all these things that I think people should have a firm grasp on and be able to do it manually before allowing their tools to do that work for them.
Speak for yourself, Jourdan.
So what I'm doing is that I am actually going to I've extracted the castle, and I've decided to darken it much more.
Send me that PSD.
What? Why?
Since you've extracted the castle.
It doesn't take that much time, man. Stop being a lazy bastard. So I've decided to do that and just darken it much more. And what that does is immediately extract the castle from the background. And since it seems to be backlit, it's okay. It's perfectly fine, just because it could suit the ominous mood of the piece. And I think I will focus on the mood right now, and I can move on to a design actually next. But in terms of the mood, I don't think it's quite ominous enough. The red just feels a little bit more warm and inviting and dead, but it doesn't feel evil or cursed, you know. So what I'm going to do is have adjustment layers on top, where I'm going to make it a little bit greener and just feel a little bit more sickly, because curses tend to be associated with, you know, disease or death, something that you would want to wish upon your worst enemy.
I associate it with Tuffan.
Associated with me.
Yeah, really good points.
So I'm just messing around a little bit with some of the layers, with a curves layer, maybe even a color lookup. And we'll also get back to your question in a little bit, Smoke Kipper, just so we can finish with this paint over first. And make sure that we're on topic. So something like this maybe. And one of the reasonings is that I've actually been looking at something, not real life, but this is the Tomb of Sargeras from World of Warcraft. And as you can see, the sickly green skies, you know, that really nails the mood for me. And that's what I thought about when you mentioned there was a cursed castle. So, and another thing as well that I think we can do is maybe have some even more dramatic clouds. So I've decided to get this reference image ahead of time, and something that's a little bit more foreboding, you know, a little bit less light, so it feels like it's not as hopeful perhaps. What you have is fine, I will say that, but I think this is something that could work better in my opinion. And we can definitely even bring back some of the colors, or at least some of those lights as well. So I'm just going to do a quick color match. So for those of you that don't know, you can go to Image, Adjustments, and then go to Match Color, and I'm selecting this extraction that I've created for myself that contains the color and value information that I want to match this to. And I'm going to match this color to that sky. So just watch. Boom, there we go. And I'm going to lower it down. I know, man.
Almost like magic.
My career. I'm revealing all of my secrets right here.
Yeah.
All I do is cheat, man. So I'm just going to fade the sky a little bit, just to kind of match some of this. I really do like the mood of this, and how some of the things in the background, like the mountains, are just fully silhouetted. It just makes it so much more ominous. So this one thing I thought about was actually having this whole environment in snowy mountains, just because it feels cold and less inviting. You don't have to do this, and it can be normal mountains. And honestly, even with the value adjustments that I'm going to be making to this, it will pretty much look just pure black, so it doesn't matter too much. So I'm just having a look at this in values, then just going to do a quick levels adjust. I'm going to do another color match. So I have that hotkey myself, just so it's much faster. Oof, maybe not. I'll just duplicate this and set it to and color match again. But I'm going to set it to color mode this time. Eesh, that doesn't work either. So I'll probably just do this. Anyways, Ken, you can talk about your paint over as well. I think I've been blathering on a bit too much.
Yeah, right now I'm just getting better references. Please. I'm not exactly sure about the shape of the piece. Too stylized. But the trees at the back look real. There, again, there's action.
Yeah.
I just find a nice photo reference acid around, then use that, make the composition.
And I'm also extracting the castle from the background using some fog. I should have probably just painted that mountain manually. But you know what? I feel like I'm actually noodling a little bit too much. So what I'm going to quickly jump to is the design of the castle. And since the storyline is that it is a cursed place, I've thought about things that are cursed. And maybe there's a narrative as to why the place is cursed. And my wife actually helped me to brainstorm this, and she said, you know, it reminds her of ancient civilizations where some of the places have been cursed, and she gave me the idea of why was that place cursed. And perhaps maybe this place was actually similar to a Mayan civilization where they did human sacrifices, and now the souls of the people that were tortured there now haunt the place. So one of the reference images that I've actually gathered is this, something like this. So let me get down to the nitty-gritty of design, since I've been focusing a little bit more on like the mood and things like that. So maybe it's like this. And I've also thought about maybe the fallen towers kind of look like ribs, you know, of a creature. And you know, vultures are typically associated with death as well. And maybe Mayan civilizations where we can introduce a more unique design language rather than just a boring European castle, you know. So that's where what I would do is start to change the design to match some of these inspirations that are here. Art joke. Thanks, Ken. Pretty high IQ thinking, if I do say so myself. Yes. I mean, I have my moments too. So maybe the castle can be, can have interesting blockiness to it, like they do with Mayan civilizations. So it's a lot more definitive and interesting. And maybe, instead of a normal tower, you can have the top as well cast in shadow, just to make it look so much more ominous. And we're gonna make the vaults of the building look like rib cages, for example. So yes, and just to gel it in a little bit more, I'm going to introduce a bit of fog to some of these parts in the background, just so that it doesn't feel like it's on the same plane as the foreground. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of fog in between. And I'm going to be reading some of the comments actually, since there's quite a few. Oh, hey Roanna, great to have you on the stream today. Are you just watching from home? And Bima also says, oh, in response to Smoke Kipper's question. Yeah, we'll get to that as well later on. But you know what? I'll just answer it quickly. I think Photoshop is worth it, and I do think that there's a free trial Smoke Kipper, so give it a go. If you really do like it, and I'm sure that you will, especially if you try out some of the special features, I think you'll really enjoy it, and it will push your works to the next level.
They're actually increasing the price. $10 per month.
Yeah.
Got no choice.
Yeah. Damn it, Photoshop. Why do you have to be so good? And I'm also bringing back some of the step architecture of the Mayan civilization. And maybe there's a... No, maybe at the top, you know, here somewhere is that they have the platform where they do this human sacrifice. I don't know. I'm just testing out some ideas here. Maybe that's where they once did it, you know. And you can therefore add in some lighting effects where maybe it's the source of all of the curse, you know, and why there's like a constant.
Seem to know these things.
I can neither confirm or deny that this comes from personal experience. So yeah, maybe there's, you know, something shooting up to the sky, and that, you know, is an echo back to the tomb of Sargeras image that we had a while back, where you have lights shooting up on the sky. So yeah, I can also use like a color dodge layer, maybe. Give it a try. Maybe lighting up the sky. Eesh, that's a bit too much. Lighting up the sky, and then I'm just going to do this thingamajig. Yeah, so maybe this, and just to add in another thing as well, is that maybe there's a murder of crows that's circling around, because crows are typically associated with curses or a bad omen. So maybe it's bats or crows, and they're just circling around, you know. And it is a certainly ominous sign when you see a bunch of crows in a certain formation like this. So maybe that this is the area that the players have to approach, you know. I'm also just going to crop the composition a bit just to make it a little bit more dramatic. Thanks, Ken. Yeah, I think yours definitely takes a different approach as well, Ken. Like even adding much more realistic trees and the adjustment of lighting and adding atmosphere changes a lot of things.
Yeah, we're going on a direction. Being something more realistic. Design.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. And in fact, we were actually talking about this. We're just talking about different.
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And mine definitely goes more into the fantasy sort of realm. So it really depends. But one thing that we've learned from our good friend Nick, as well as Nick Oy, is that, you know, is to consider the feelings and emotions that we want to communicate with our images as well. And that's something that we've been lacking quite a bit in our own personal works too. So we're trying to add this layer into these paint overs that we're doing. So yeah, hopefully you guys find this to be useful information as well. Yeah, maybe some trees just to add a bit of a foreground element. But yeah, this would be my paint over. Maybe I'll remove it. Nah, I'll keep it, whatever. So yes, this paint over also went on a little bit longer than the others. But yeah, I think this should cover up most of the points. I'll even write it down just to recap for everyone that's watching. So I think composition and camera angle, that's really influences the perception of the image. And then the design, the function, the purpose, and the story. Those are very important to consider. And 3 as well, I would say, is thinking of the storytelling elements, the supporting elements, really. Elements. Alright, so that would be my points. And we will be sending the PSD to Guilz as well later on. Oh yeah, and atmosphere. I actually didn't add too much atmosphere on my piece. So I'll quickly do that and we can move on to the other piece that we have. I think we have one more? Oh, 2 more actually. So hang tight with us, guys. We have a couple more to go. And if you guys have any comments or questions as well, do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Let's just keep this chat alive and going as well. We really do appreciate having you guys on here and watching the stream. Alright, there we go. So boom, this is the other image.
I really like the structure.
Thanks, dude. Oh god, don't tell me.
Oh no! Oh no!
I didn't save. I didn't save Florian's.
Wow! Hey, wait.
I did.
Nice.
Ooh, phew. Oh. Phew. That would have been a horrible rookie mistake. No, I have it. I have it saved, Florian. Don't worry. Oh, we have one more. Okay. So
we have 2 more.
We will open it up. Yes, 2 more. And this one is by
Hayden.
Yes. Thank you so much for submitting the image. And this time it's a more character focused piece, so this one should be interesting. And I hate to put you on the spot like this, Ken, but I'm just gonna quickly go to the toilet and I'll let you start with your painting.
No worries.
Alright.
Take your time.
Hang tight, guys.
Okay. So let's just start by reading the description that he put. So this piece was to illustrate an epic fight between my original characters, Thol, a pyromancer, and Johnson, an arcanist, and it's just before they really start to fight when they show off their powers. The piece is not finished. Okay. First impression, it looks really nice. Of the lighting, render, but a few key points that I think be taken to. One of the things is by gathering some references for the landscape that these 2 characters are in, because you put a lot of emphasis on the environments themselves. There's not a lot of atmosphere. Everything is quite clear, so I think you do need references to make sure that the environment is. And welcome back, Jourdan. I did gather some references. Environment. Character.
I will also pull up my reference images. Oof, the reference image is so massive. So what have you been
Right. So I was
discussing
I was
about so far,
saying
Ken?
that even though it's a character focused image, he put a lot of emphasis on the environment as well, because
Mm-hmm.
the environment quite clear. Good references for the environment as well. Because right now
I
it's
see.
just a lot of some random brush pasted
Mm-hmm.
top of one environment. I do think that
Mm.
reference make the piece more. He also wants to make the environment this clear.
I
As
see.
for the characters, well, I think the main problem with the character are the poses. Characters, they're just standing there. There's no dynamism between. Looks like they're staring at each. If they're fighting, they're about to fight, then I feel like they should show off more of a fighting stance. Maybe some kind of I don't know, just something different than this, almost like a T pose.
I see. Yeah.
So to make it more interesting, just
I do agree on that.
yeah.
And one of my thoughts is that I immediately thought about the League of Legends artist Suke or Suk. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, sorry. And I thought that it would be great to have a really epic pose in the foreground of maybe the character charging into battle. And in this case, with the pyromancer flaring out his flames, whereas the other one is perhaps casting a defensive shield. So you see their powers in action.
Right.
Because right now, sure, I can see that he can control fire and she can control arcane magic, but what does it specifically do? And this does look more defensive just because it's circular, looks like shields. And whereas this one, and including his pose as well, it's a lot more heroic and outwards, which makes it feel like he's more offensive. So maybe, yeah, he could be, you could create that sort of contrast and dynamic and narrative that's going on in the piece.
And with something like a splash screen, certainly difficult to balance out the focal point between all the different characters. So one of the things that I think we both learned during a certain workshop is to have one main focus for the piece. To just have one character be the main focus. In this case, I'll try to make the pyromancer instead of
I see.
instead of the others, and also the environment. One of the ways is make him a little bigger. And I think that's kind of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm making Kim. I'm trying to keep it close to the original powers that the character has. So holding like the flame whip. It looks like a weapon of sorts. So maybe that can be emphasized as well. Actually, is that one of them can be. This one's actually tricky. It's a very tricky angle to do it from this low. So I'm doing my best as well.
And again, what I was talking about with camera placement, and not camera placement, but character placement in the frame will come into play quite heavily. But it depends on which character you emphasize more and where you place him or where camera.
Yeah.
That will help
So
push
I'm also placing it low.
Sorry, that will help push the narrative that you're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm putting it low again because I personally like low camera angles because I'm so short that I'm used to seeing everything from a lower vantage point anyways. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is that maybe from a lower camera angle you can also
Do is sight by a word.
yeah. So maybe you can see the character in the background. The arcane is flaring up the shields, you know. So they're all activated right now. And you can see all of these circular shapes maybe surrounding her. And then maybe with this guy that's charging into battle. So let me actually make his... Let me... Don't say that, Ken. No one has to know. But it's definitely really tricky. I'm not saying that I'm not struggling right now too with the pose, but I'm actually thinking that he's running into, he's charging into battle right now with his flame weapons. So maybe he's dragging one of it behind him as well. So I'm not sure what he's holding. Maybe it is like a whip. So maybe both of his arms and hands can be behind him. And then he's dragging behind his weapon. So he's kind of doing a Naruto run into the battle. That might not be a bad idea, actually. Yeah, so something like that perhaps. So you have this kind of forward motion by him. Whereas this one is a lot more straight and stationary. So I'm just going to do a quick value pass as well right now, just to extract some of the silhouettes. And I think it's definitely a challenging piece because you're not only tasked to create an interesting composition, but show off the powers of the characters as well. That is not an easy task, because I did participate in a challenge before as well when it's for Cube Brush's Art War, and that was a big challenge, trying to make sure that the composition reads and the powers to read as well. So maybe we can have this character bathed in light. So maybe sort of underlit from the sigil underneath. Oop. Gonna make it a little bit more, follow the 3-point perspective more.
I think looking at other artists that are very skilled in this sort of thing, for example, like you mentioned, the guy who made Specialist Riot games, look at them.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, because to be fair, there's just not so many pieces where you can see people in such exaggerated action. This is one of those instances where I would say it's more okay to do it. But with that said, if you can take inspiration somewhere else for your reference images, that would be a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is some of the, and I'm gonna also silhouette in the mountains as well in the background. So I'm trying to...
I might change this, the camera angle that I have to more similar that he already has.
I see.
So as
yeah,
not
I think it's fine. So we have...
Yeah.
So we have different interpretations of the brief. And definitely can take which one works better. Let me save Hayden PO Jourdan so I don't lose this. So I'm also going to do a quick color pass just so we can see. Actually, I'm going to insert this photo of the clouds that I have gathered a while back, and I really love the color scheme, and it suits the one that you already have, Hayden. So I'm gonna try to fit it in somehow.
Instant lighting.
Yes. I'll be honest, I don't normally work too much with photos, but it's quite nice to see how fast it speeds up the process. I won't lie. And I'll try and match it closer to the values that I've already established for this guy. But maybe it's a bit too light. But yeah, this is one of those paint overs that will take a long time, and we've actually kind of exceeded the time that we have for this paint over as well, Ken. So we should actually move on very, very soon. But I think the idea is here though that the composition is something that's very important to consider. And I think that has been a running theme for most of the pieces today.
Certainly. Composition is definitely a skill that you need to study a lot of pieces. Just study other artists, study by doing a lot of pieces yourself.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with just studying from other artists. I've been doing it a lot more recently as well. And I think I've been stubborn at one point not to do it, but it's really been helping me a lot. Yeah, some epic clouds as well. So yeah, we'll probably move on to the next image soon as well. So we can make sure that we get through everything. But yeah, this one's definitely a big piece to handle, so props to you for definitely giving it an attempt, Hayden, but definitely think about what you want to communicate with the action and the scene as well. This one doesn't show as much, unfortunately, but hopefully the paint over does help, but give you a certain idea of where to take it. Okay, and we can move on to the last one, I think, Ken. I'll also write down quick notes. Composition.
Oh, and also perspective. Something that really helps in terms of pushing the depth of course the perspective. But right now
and you can break it a lot more too with these kinds of pieces.
Yeah, and since what he has now, the perspective doesn't converge to anything, and the elements that are in the painting doesn't help convey the depth. What he can do, add details to the ground, example that helps define the perspective. That rocks going into
that's a good idea, Ken.
That will really help push.
Yeah, I agree. I'm getting a bit too into this painting now.
Yeah, it's actually fun.
It is a really fun piece. So yeah, I'm just adding in the lighting. So that's important as well. So it works out great that you put in a warm and a cool Hayden. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's definitely a combination that does work very well. So use it to your advantage for sure. Oh, no worries, Florian. It's our pleasure to help out, and once again, thank you so much, guys, for submitting the piece. It's been enjoyable so far, and yeah, hopefully he does find it to be helpful as well. And we will also have a VOD as well and a recording put up on our YouTube channel later, so he'll be able to watch it as well. And if both of you or anyone that has received feedback has any further question, we will do our best to respond to them. So just message us
on Facebook or join the group, the Drawing Table Podcast group on Facebook, and feel free to post any questions you have there. And we'll try our best to answer.
Let me just add a Gaussian blur. There we go, nice and glowy now.
Nice.
Alright, so
Last
moving
piece.
on. Yes. The last but certainly not the least piece is by Pierre. I think that's the name of the person that submitted it.
Pierre?
Let me just...
Pierre?
Pierre.
Okay. So... Yes. Would you like
So
to
I will read
out
it.
the description?
Yes. Yes. You. It's finally my turn. So,
Go ahead.
Pierre has submitted this piece, and the description that he has attached along with it is: the goal was to make one image to depict a fortress in an RPG type of game. So I wanted to have something that looks epic and oversized, like that could not have been built by men type of city. The city has a backstory with the statues, which are protectors of the city, representing the nobles and peoples and etc. My main reference was things like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and oversized and various real-world references or artwork from various artists. I had struggles deciding on which point of view to use to describe this city best in only one frame and working on a bird's eye view, which is not the most usual camera used when painting. Thank you for your time, and thank you for submitting it, Pierre. And we're really glad to have the rough sketches of this piece as well, so we get an idea of your thought process in arriving to a final piece. And I don't think we've been doing a very good job, Ken, of actually pointing out the positives of what people have done. So I think we can still make up for it with the last piece. And I will say, I do think that this city does look quite epic, and I really like the layout of the city. And I don't know if this was intentional, but one reference image that I looked up, because it looks like the city might have been built by gods, or the fact that there's some religious symbolism as well in the piece, was that this city's layout seems awfully similar to the wings of the seraphim. Look at that. There's the hole in the middle, and then the wings.
Interesting.
Like I said, I'm not sure if it's intentional, but I get the feeling that it is. No way that this is an accident. And props to you, Pierre, on putting that kind of symbolism into your piece. And it also creates for a visually interesting layout as well. I really do like it. And it does feel nice and epic with the giant statues. And even the whiteness of the walls makes it feel like a holy and sacred place. So yeah, I do think you've managed to capture some of the things that you've written down very well.
For sure.
What do you think, Ken?
For sure. Really like how the city itself is built on these platforms and pedestals, instead of having it conform to the shape of the landscape. It really pushes the idea that it's not something that's built by men. Because usually if it's built by men, then they would have just made the village along the land itself, right? But this requires a lot more work.
Yes.
So it in that sense, you're quite successful. The idea
Yes.
But again, still quite a bit more that we think can be pushed. Design itself. Would you like to start with?
Yes. So I think that we can really push the epicness of the piece even more. And one of the things is that I think the environment in itself is a little bit plain. So I thought about, why not make it feel like the place in itself is hard to access, or maybe the idea of building something on top of it seems a lot more difficult than just a flat piece of land. So why not have epic waterfalls around it, And at the feet of the waterfall, there's just fog that's enveloping the area, making it feel a lot more mysterious and godly. So
And
that's my thought process.
speaking of that, to add to your idea and what I mentioned about these platforms, what could be interesting is to actually have the platforms be on different levels according to the elevation. So it's not like one static level of plane.
Yes.
But according to the landscape, they might build it at one point. It's this kind of this high of a platform, and then the next one is this high, and then it's like built on top of another, so it looks really grand and epic, and also different sizes. Well,
yes, preach it, Father Ken. I agree completely, man. That's actually one of the things that I wanted to do, and some of the reference images that I've had, I will pull it up actually, is some of these. Oop, they're really massive, but I thought that maybe having tiered levels and maybe some more religious connotation to it, whereas these Balinese puras, if I'm not mistaken, the higher level that you go, the more holy the area is.
Right.
So I think you can have a giant staircase that's similar in the middle of your piece as well. So maybe the higher you go, the more close you are to the protectors of the city, or where they are believed to reside. And you can make the staircase crazy huge, just to make it feel like it's not built by men. There we go. Well, well, we can definitely work on the integration. But yeah, I think you guys get the idea. So even with the waterfalls on the side, I'll just continue painting on it actually. So yeah, do you have any other thoughts, Ken, while I just do this paint over to integrate?
Yeah. Up. Look at old paintings of Greek and Roman piece, because when you mention, you're looking at Lord. Spirit, and that reminds painting. They usually depict their cities as grand, majestic, built by the gods or built for the gods themselves. They have a lot of gods, right? So they have a lot of temple pillars. It really helps push the idea. And see, like this big statue here, and then these buildings making. There's also a connected to the also Cassle. Here really picks the epic that I'm going for. Although it might not directly translate one to one, but it can take a lot of inspiration from the image.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and also for my feedback, what I'm doing is creating a certain pathway up, similar to this bridge in Prague, I think. And I really think it looks epic, and I can imagine it if it's applied to this kind of staircase. And perhaps, yeah, you can just have these giant statues on the side. Just so you can, it emphasizes the fact that it's not built by men. It makes it so much easier when the view is almost isometric. I don't have to do as much skewing in perspective.
When you mentioned landscape. Certainly. As easy.
Yeah.
So try to make the environment outside just a little bit more epic. Example, making plan that they built a bit tall. Perhaps like it's a very steep. And with epicness, what also really helps, in my opinion, adding verticality.
Yes.
What you're doing right now is spreading the line horizon, but something epic. Maybe you can try designing it vertically.
Yeah. Because verticality is very difficult to reach when you are in, I guess, with less more primitive technology. So if one of the structures that I was thinking about is the Sagrada Familia, I don't know where it is, but it looks really, even now with the technology we have, it looks so, it doesn't look like it's made by man, you know, but this building is quite old in itself. So, and that is achieved but by all these ridiculously tall towers. So maybe that's what you can do in your piece as well, Pierre, where you can add in more vertical elements to the piece. And yeah, so you can just create, and it could serve a functional purpose too. Perhaps it's a watchtower of sorts. And yeah, just repeat some of those patterns perhaps.
And what I'm doing now is and now the pillars of which actually but you had quite very level by adding just a bit of a variation. Interest.
Yes, for sure. That elevation that we're looking for. Wait a minute, where the hell did my waterfalls go? There we go. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just cycling through some color lookup modes, which you can find in adjustments, and choosing color lookup, and you can change all of these filters just to find a mood that happens to work for your piece. And you can come up with some very happy accidents, honestly, when it comes to this. So give it a try. And I think this serves as a solid base. And I'm going to set it to color so it doesn't crush the values. And what I'm going to do now is that one of the things that I think is going on is that because of the blackness of the shadows, it looks like the whole area is in a cave. I do not know if that's intentional or not. So what I'm going to do is use selective color mode and then just choose blacks and try and tint it a little bit so that it's not purely dark. Just trying to push it up a little bit. And I think what can help is having a similar lens bloom but across the whole area, because there would be a thicker blanket of atmosphere on top of everything else. So I'm gonna grab pin light with a warmer color. And
don't forget to give God rays.
Yes. God rays are the way to go if you want really epic scenes. And I'm gonna desatch. It's still a bit too warm. I think I'm gonna be a little bit more controlled by choosing a lighter color. So
right now,
the reason,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say why it feels like a cave is that there's just not as much atmosphere in the air. But if you have this thick blanket, because you are, as an observer, we are assuming that this is the city and you are looking way above at the top.
Yep.
And there would be a lot of atmosphere in between in the air that's creating this lighter value. And it just feels like there wasn't much going on, which made me feel like the area was in a cave of some sorts. So yeah, that's, and of course we want to darken the shadows as well. Now that we have a brighter light source, we want a darker shadow. So don't be afraid to simplify the values on the inside, because you have a strong direct light. You want to definitely play around with that. So you can play around with it a lot more.
Oh. Oh. Right now what you have is at the back. Slivers of city. Platform.
Yeah, that's
There's
really nice.
Also a play between light and
Yeah, I agree. And another thing as well is, I think it would be a good idea to also find a photo to apply onto the water as well, because it doesn't quite look like water.
Oh, and bye Yuki, thanks for joining.
Alright, see you, Yuki. Yeah, really glad to have you on here with us right now, man. But yeah, we'll catch you around next time.
Yeah, I haven't seen stuff from you.
So I'm taking this aerial view of the sea. Even just this would help increase the scale almost instantly, just because it creates detail density that was not present in the image before. I think I could choose a better photo, but I think you guys get the idea though. Maybe I shouldn't distort it as much. That's the problem. Just make it a bit brighter as well. Just mask it in. I think I could have chosen a nicer photo, but I think the idea is there though. And maybe even creating some smaller islands as fall off. I think Ken did that in his image already. Just so it feels a lot more natural, that it's not, it doesn't feel like, you know, it's so designed, I suppose. And it'll also help increase the scale as well. And as a last part, as I was mentioning at the start of the stream, it would be cool to have a lot of fog as well at the bottom, just to make it feel a bit more mysterious, I think. just so we can add that. And of course, as a quick final touch, some god rays. I think it works differently though when you're talking about an aerial view. So I'm pretty sure that's just not how it necessarily works. But yeah. But whatever. Let's just put it in. And also, why not have some of the birds in the foreground a bit closer to the city as well, so we get a better idea of what we're looking at, and just have it much brighter values. And actually on the bridge as well, on the final part, just to break the silhouette a bit, try and repeat some of the shapes that you already have or even have statues. I'm just duplicating it really quickly. But I think it just makes the bridge a little bit more interesting. It doesn't have to be that pointed, but just something to kind of extract it out a little bit, I think. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the piece. It is a cool piece though. It's just that these are at least what I think we could do to push it even further. And that actually wraps up the paint over. I could still do a little bit color. Yeah.
From a bird's side.
Yeah, that's too good of a question. It's alright, we'll figure it out. Okay, so that actually does wrap up the paint over session and the feedback session. So even though some of you may not have had your piece directly painted over, hopefully you all still got something out of it. But we still have one more session just to wrap things up. That will be the artwork of the week. Yes. So that is a section that we do at the end of every podcast where we share that have left an impression on us. And we have collected some of it, and we'll be sharing it with you.
Let me show you before and after real quick.
Oh yeah, that would be a good idea. Yeah, so this would be mine. There we go. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I think your lighting looks better. But it's okay. We all focused on different things. So I think Pierre and anyone that got a paint over can just pick and mix on what they think works and what doesn't.
Okay, great. Let's go for the... As Jourdan mentioned, where we show artworks
that we really like.
that have impressed us, that we found during the...
Alright.
Start.
Okay, so one of the first artworks that I thought was really impressive from this week was an art dump that was done by my friend Sheng Lam, and it is some of the props that he has done on his time on Star Citizen, and I just really enjoy seeing design thinking being done at such a simple but well executed level, and which is with line work, and I think that has become increasingly rare.
And it also shows that for the AAA games and where the graphic, they still require line work to figure out.
Definitely. And I think he is an inspiration in that sense, where if you really are good at what you do and you have good design thinking, it doesn't matter how you arrive to it. It still shows that you can be an asset in the production itself. So yes, this is just one of the many artworks that he has in the art dump. So do yourselves a favor by checking him out on the following social media links and enjoy the other pieces that he has. So that's the first piece that I've chosen, and the other piece that I have selected as well is from Alexis Rives, and this is the series that I've just been so mesmerized by, and I'm just so in love with the world that he has created with his Spirited series. And what I really like about his works in general is just the stylization and the expressiveness of the characters and the world that he's able to create. You know, it has a good mix of almost Western and also anime styles as well. And it's just brought together in such a playful way. And it's just so full of personality, even though the designs are a little bit more out there. And that's something that I'm aiming to do more of in my own work, or at least what I aspire to do. So seeing someone achieve it to such a to such a high level, yeah, it just makes it an instant inspiration for me.
Actually, I just checked his profile. That's quite mind-blowing.
It is.
Really
And
good.
I know this. If you are a fan of character designs with a lot of great shape designs and with a lot of personality, then this guy is definitely one to check out. So here are his social media links. So it's Alexis Rives, and you can find him on Facebook or ArtStation under Dead Slug, or on Twitter with _DeadSlug_. So make sure to check it out. And yes, Roana, I agree, his color sense is amazing. It's just something that is not necessarily realistic, but it's very believable, and it just conjures up so much emotions. It's just as if he uses the color and lighting to his own purpose, and how he wants to use it to enhance his image rather than letting it control him, which tends to be what happens with my own artwork, is that I'm too caught up with trying to make it so realistic that it ends up being stiff and less emotive. So yeah, fantastic works, and I just can't wait to see more from his Spirited art series.
Okay, so for my art of the week, the first one comes from Andrew Porter, or Fandy, if you're looking for him on. And what I really like about this one is, well, this is actually a set of artworks that he posted. It's like a diorama of some sort. And what I really like about his work in general, and this one, is the stylization that he creates. And also, I feel like he's not afraid of pushing the proportions, whatever shape that he likes.
Yeah.
Like there's no sense of fear. Like he just does what he likes best. And
Yeah.
really like the simplicity of the coloring as well. And that's what I've recently been trying to do, is make my rendering simpler and simpler, and focusing more on the
graphics.
shape. Exactly. Graphic. It's focusing on shapes.
Yeah.
I think these two have really great shapes. And
Oh yeah.
not just
It
the
almost
shape
looks
of
like
the...
a low poly 3D model, actually.
Yeah, he was actually working on a VR game, a low poly VR game recently,
I see.
and yeah, you should check out that work. Really cool. But yeah, it's not just a shape design in terms of props itself, but also the play of light and dark. I really like.
Yeah, it makes it so inviting. Honestly, it's like a world you really want to explore.
And then the second one is by Georgy Simeonov, or Calendar, if you're looking for him on social media. And
didn't you actually meet up with him a while back?
Yes, I actually met up with him at THU. Such an awesome guy. Every time he posted something, and you want to know more about his design thinking process, you should check out the blogs that he wrote on Adam. So he's working at Unity with this tech demo that pushes the boundary what the engine can do. But that's for another story. But for this piece in particular, what I really like is the limited color palette that he uses. Even this fire here, it's not even red.
Yeah,
like
it's a very
pale,
desaturated.
exactly pale, but everything is just so cohesive. And I'm kind of biased with simplistic rendering at this moment, but that just really makes me feel so attracted to this. It's the graphic treatment of everything.
Yeah.
Really good.
I think it tends to be the case where we enjoy certain artworks more because that is what we are focusing and appreciating more right now too.
For sure.
You tend to notice some things a little bit more when that is something that you are struggling with or perhaps seeking to improve on. And it's the same for me recently with like color and light. I've been trying to really work on that recently, and I've just become a lot more appreciative of people that have a masterful use of it.
Any artists that looking at?
No, not particularly, honestly, but I will say Alexis Rivas definitely has the usage of color and light that I would like to have in my artwork, where it feels like there's a lot of atmosphere going on, but in reality, if you look at it, the rendering is quite simple, but it feels like there's a lot of form and weight to all the characters and things that he renders. And it's just fantastic. I really, really love his works. One of my favorite artists, I think I would say. I've been following him for a while too, so it's great to see the kind of progression that he's had with his artwork.
All right, so that marks the end of this episode.
And one more comment as well, just from Mate Milky, which and she says that that's something that she struggles with too. And did you mean color and light specifically? And if that is, then I think that tends to be the struggle with quite a lot of people. Yeah,
and
even it's a very challenging thing.
Even Daisutsumi and Robert Kondo, who I think are masters in color and light, they still say that they learn something new every day about color and light.
No, she did mean rendering simplicity, but I think that comes hand in hand with color and light as well, for sure.
Yeah.
And Sesame Lettuce also says, I love all those desaturated colors. And yeah, I think that shows just how much you can do with so little, right, Ken?
And I do think that there's no such thing as muddy colors, but there's such thing called muddy values. So colors can be, you can use any colors, but if the value relationships are not right, then does it work? Because I feel like when people say muddy colors, it usually means that the values are too jumbled up, or they're not clear, the shapes are not clear, so you don't really understand what's going on. Or maybe even like the contrast of values.
Yeah. Oh, and how about we open up a Q&A for 5 minutes, Ken, just to round it up to like 45.
Yes. Okay. Let's open up the chat for Q&A.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, or if anyone that has had the paint overdone just now of their works and want something's clarified, I think now would be a good time to do so. We have around 6 more minutes. But yeah, it's been great fun though, just doing another podcast, and I realized this one is a little bit more technically related, and maybe not as much stories or jokes going around. And yeah, it is a challenge for sure. I don't know about you, Ken, to do a paint over and engage with chat and be entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest challenge was actually the pieces themselves aren't quite good as it is.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of them are kind of nitpicky in certain ways.
Yeah. But of course, we're giving our thoughts on what we think could help improve the piece and push it.
Why do you have different account name on Instagram and ArtStation, Jourdan?
ArtStation? Different names? Oh. Well,
Yeah.
on Instagram? I mean, if you mean like my URL, let me find it actually.
Your handle.
Isn't it J Tuffan on ArtStation?
Yeah, and it's JTuff Designs on Instagram.
That's true. I guess when I made my ArtStation, I don't know if I've already made my Instagram at that point, so I just wanted to go with my name. But then after a while, I think that I wanted to just be more associated with a certain branding, I guess, and that's JTuff Designs. But I don't think it should be too confusing, right? Since the Tuffan, Jourdan Tuffan is, it should be similar enough.
I can't seem to find your ArtStation.
Is that a joke?
Yes, that's a joke.
Okay, I thought that was actually an actual problem. I was like, oh shoot, maybe I should change it. But yeah, but I think I'm the only Jourdan Tuffan in the world. So if anyone does Google that up, unless my sister decides to make an account with J Tuffan, then that would make things a little bit more difficult. And we have another question actually from Latte Milky. Is there any visual storytelling exercise you can recommend for starters? And I think that could tie in with some of the advice that we've been giving on the stream earlier, Ken, which we talk about adding a visual storytelling element to it. So would you like to start it off?
Visuals. It's all about. It's kind of sounds very obvious, but it's all about what you want to tell story. That's the main focus. So what we were talking about with the camera placement and then the subject.
Mise-en-scene.
I forgot how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Basically, the things that you put on camera, that all helps with. So maybe you can also read books on like movie making, cinematography, things like that. That all is related. And do studies from movies, animation that you really like, that you think really great stories. Usually helps a lot.
Yeah, or just watching a lot of stuff actually. That always helps because there's a lot of master storytellers that have created wonderful films. And even comics, manga, they're fantastic actually.
Oh yeah, of course.
Especially manga artists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they're master of doing that one, that page turn where they have a build up to a page flip where it reveals an epic panel on the next part. And I think they do it even more crazily sometimes than actual animations and films because they have that liberty to create a still image, and maybe it's a lot easier to do it, like the continuity. I'm not sure exactly why, or maybe it's just that idea of the page flip where you are the one in control of flipping that page and revealing it, whereas for a movie you're kind of strapped in for a ride through, the through a Disney theme park ride or the Love Tunnel.
I think now that you mention it, I think that's quite interesting because I feel like that's one of the reasons why the Spider-Man intro into the Spider-Verse was so successful is because it doesn't conform to the usual animation style. It takes inspirations from how a comic book is flipped. The comic book pages are flipped and how the frames are laid out. So maybe that's why it's so interesting. Totally new.
Yeah, maybe. I will be honest, I still
You
haven't
haven't watched it, right?
Like many other movies. Isn't it funny? I'm excited to watch Detective Pikachu, but I wasn't interested to watch what do you call it?
Spider-Man.
Even Spider-Man, Avengers.
Get your pitchforks out, guys.
Oh, trust me, my coworkers have been trying to get me to watch these great movies, but I think they've kind of given up on me at this point. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them, honestly.
Okay.
Eventually, man.
Yeah. So last two questions.
Yes.
First
There's one more serious one and one quick one from Vima.
Okay.
Gotta go fast, right?
Let's answer Sesame's first, or Cassle. Cassle.
Yes.
What do you think about color gamut? Do you suggest to use it in? Thanks.
That is actually an interesting thing. About the limiting part, and I think as seen in Georgy Semyonov's piece, that limits are not necessarily a bad thing. And I tend to find that the best pieces or designs that I come up with are actually those that have limits on them, because you start to find out ways on working within those limits, and from them you can come up with interesting new solutions that you would have not been able to, I think, narrow it down to if you had just run of the whole spectrum of things, whether it's colors or design. So specifically when it comes to colors, I think it could come down a little bit more to your stylization preferences, because I personally think if you want impact, then a limiting color palette works great. But if you're talking about creating an actual design, like let's just say creating the color explorations for characters, I tend to find that if it's very, very limited, it can end up having a more simple character design. It's not bad, but it tends to have a more stylized look, because if you look at the world around you, they can be varied, but I think that's a little bit too varied. You can still limit that a little bit more and control the hues that it falls under and things like that, the saturation, but you can still make it a lot more varied than if you just stuck to maybe a complementary color scheme. So it just depends what you want to achieve, and I do suggest using it, but how restricted you want it to be, I think you should consider what project you're working on. So that's my summary of my answer. What do you think, Ken?
I think it's style or the final. I think it goes back to the mood and the feel. Trying to go something that's, I don't know, careful, then maybe it makes more sense to use that are more saturated, that are more vibrant. Looking thing that looks like old master painting that evokes that sense of emotion, and limiting your color gamut would be a good option.
Yeah, it creates more impact. The more limited, the more impact, because you have literally, like, in a sense, like yin and yang, that are competing against each other. But if you want something to feel a little bit more realistic, then you can have it a little bit more varied, but try and set a certain limit, because if it's too colorful, it just doesn't look good. So yeah, limits are good, but how limiting you want it depends on what you want to achieve. Yeah.
That answers.
Yeah, it's a bit tough because I've never really thought about it too much, but hopefully that does answer the question.
Okay, last question by Bima.
Yes.
What do you think of the Sonic movie design? Sonic in the movie. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
I have, man. I've watched it a few times actually, just for the beams, honestly. It's great. There's one of it actually where the cop finds Sonic first time in the garage, I think, and instead of having the shot where it shows a bullet or a sleeping dart being fired from the gun, it just cuts that off, which makes it look like Sonic was just directly shot. And then the scene just ends right there. And I think that reflects a lot of the sentiments that people have about the design. It's just a shining definition or dictionary entry definition of what Uncanny Valley is. It just looks so weird. It just looks like a guy in a Sonic suit, honestly.
Yeah, that's the main problem, I think. Because they're trying to make it look so realistic. Like, I think the main not in terms of the materials or the fur, but the proportion.
Yeah, and even the way they design the mouth, the eyes, and things like that. And Bima has a quick follow-up to that. Do you think they made it memeable just for the trailer to attract traffic?
Could be.
I'd like to think so, but it feels a little bit too convoluted. And if that is the case, then I take off my hat to them for being marketing geniuses.
They're playing 4D chess.
Yeah, exactly. And I do not attribute anything to genius or, things that, or try not to overthink things if you can just simply explain it away with stupidity. It seems to be more likely most of the time that stupidity is the reason rather than 4D chess or pure genius. Yeah,
right.
And lots of people made fixes of it as well, and I feel sorry if the animators really have to go back to it if they never had a good Sonic design in the first place. The crunch time will be crazy, dude.
Well, the movie is coming out.
Yeah, and one last point. Steve also worked on it, apparently. I don't know if you guys have seen his Instagram story, but apparently he worked on Sonic, so... Sonic, gotta go fan. But as long as he didn't design the character, it'll be fine. But if he has, then I think a lot of us have some strongly worded advice for him.
All right.
Yes, let's actually wrap it up. So we are at the end of the episode, and once again, thank you so much, guys, for attending this session, and hopefully you all got something out of it, even if your piece was not directly painted over. And for those people that have had their pieces painted over, we'll send a link to the PSD at one point. And yes, we do have a special episode coming up in the works very soon, or sometime in the near future, so we will give out more information as we have made more progress on that as well.
Okay, so let me pull up something very important.
Oh yes, and I think that would be the links to the Drawing Table's social media as well. So follow us on Instagram and Facebook for updates on upcoming content, and on YouTube to watch our previous episode. And of course, Oops! Another free plugin for him. And of course on Twitch. Yeah, Yeah, you can send your hate mail to him, guys, on
Yes,
the Sonic
for the
Reloaded.
Sonic design.
Yes. And on Twitch to catch future episodes live. We also now have a Facebook group for our community, which you can join, and we'll put that in the description later. And you can use it as a place to submit future paint overs as well when we have another feedback session. All right, and that wraps things up, guys. So we will see you at the next drawing table. All right, take care, everyone, and have a great day. Take care.
Bye.